Hey, what's up? This is Project Freelance. Welcome back to another week here on the podcast. How's it going, guys? This week we have Lauren Babic on the podcast, but first, I gotta tell you, I gotta be really honest with you guys. We need some sponsors on this podcast. If we want to continue doing this thing, we gotta have some sponsors. You know, I would like to make this podcast better. I'd like to be able to fly to my guests and do these podcasts with them. I think it would make it so much more fun, and I think it would be way more interactive, and we'd have even better conversations. So we gotta get some sponsors on this podcast, but in order to do that, I'm gonna show them my voiceover skills. Let's do this. This is an ad for my book, No Tracers, An Urban Explorer's Diary. You can get it now at justtheletterk.com/notracers. All right, here's the ad. Ready? Let's go. Also, it's Halloween themed, okay? It's a Halloween themed ad. Got it? It's gonna be amazing. Come on. How can you not like a Halloween themed ad? All right, let's go. I don't know how the city is legally allowed to just keep all this medically contaminated material lying around inside of these old decaying buildings. Surely, if the people of Downey saw these photos, the city would come under fire for not cleaning up their mess. But I'm just a mere photographer, documenting the trash that humans leave behind. The Downey Insane Asylum is not only full of contaminated material, but it is also supposedly super haunted, especially in the patients' wards, where I've been. Let me tell you, if I hadn't believed in ghosts before visiting the patients' wards here, I became a believer upon stepping into the asylum. It's so dark and eerie that it literally takes your breath away. Just in time for Halloween, use code SPOOKY2019 for 10% off your order. Okay, and I made an ad. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for listening. All right, let's get to the episode. You can go to justtheletterk.com/notracers if you want a copy. Thanks, guys. Hello, citizen of the internet. How's it going? I hope you are doing well this week. My name is Kay Anagonio, and you are listening to Project Freelance. This is a podcast where I want to help elevate you as a freelancer, as a creative person, as an entrepreneur, whatever it is that you do. Every week, I come on or I bring a guest on to talk about building a freelance life, building a freelance career, the business side of things, no matter if you're a photographer, if you're a musician, if you're like our guest this week, a vocalist. Next week, we have a welder on the podcast. It doesn't matter what you do. If you are a freelancer, this is the podcast for you. I think that the information in these episodes is very valuable, and I love getting to talk to my friends, let's be honest. And I love getting to know my friends more. So that's pretty much this podcast in a nutshell. If you guys want to check out the things that I do aside from this podcast, all of my links will be down in the description. You can browse at your leisure while listening to this podcast. And if you are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, hello, hi, how you doing? Can you do me a favor and rate this podcast if you like it? You can do it anytime during this episode, and your rating helps our podcast be seen by more people. And I say our podcast because you are a part of this. Let's talk to Lauren Babic. I met Lauren on YouTube. We have collaborated a couple times. This girl is amazing. She's from Toronto. I finally met her last Christmas up in Toronto. We spent New Year's together. Was it New Year's? Yeah, I spent New Year's at her house. And it was amazing. She's so rad, and I love being able to call her my friend. And so today I wanted to pick her brain about YouTube, talk to her a little bit about her channel, how she built her channel, and what her story's been like with her bands. And I wanted to hear some tour stories. I mean, let's be honest. Let's hear tour stories. All right, Lauren, please introduce yourself to the audience and what it is that you do.
So my name is Lauren Babic, and I am a singer / songwriter / YouTuber / teacher / vocal coach / teacher.
So how did you get into music in the first place? What got you started on your music path, and what made you want to start singing?
So I guess the music part and the singing part were very separate. Basically, I got into music very young. I just started basically banging on pots and pans when I was like 2 years old. So my parents were like, well, we should probably put her in lessons. So they put me in like little music classes and then put me in piano when I was like 5. So I kind of grew up with music from the beginning, and then I didn't really start singing until I was like 17. Pretty much after like the experience of going through piano and then picking up a guitar and doing like school band. So I started singing when I was 17, when I was listening to bands like Under Oath and The Used and My Chemical Romance, and those kind of bands kind of inspired me to be like, maybe I want to start singing in a band.
So when did you first like realize that, hey, I can actually kind of sing? Like, when did that develop, and what made you like want to pursue it as like a full-time kind of gig?
At first, when I started singing, it was just very privately, kind of just in the shower or just alone in my room, as we all do, I think, when we start singing. But I don't know if I ever thought I was quote unquote any good at first. It was kind of just like, oh, I like this, maybe I can get better. So I would just sing whatever I could when I could, regardless of the genre. Like I also kind of delved into a lot of R&B, so that in that sense I got to develop more of the technical side of singing, like the, like vocal runs and whatnot. So yeah.
So do you think R&B had like a big impact on you as a vocalist, as your style goes?
Well, definitely. Like throughout me learning how to sing and then perfecting and honing how to sing, I would listen to artists like Usher, Adele, Amy Winehouse, like a lot of soul, old Motown. So I think that has a lot of influence on how I sing right now and how I learned how to sing, because I think I guess I like to bring in a lot of those R&B and soulful elements into, like the metal singing and whatnot. So I think it's kind of seeped its way into what I do.
Yeah, I think it definitely shows, and it comes out whenever you, especially like your more recent stuff. But when you started singing, did you continue taking like or did you start taking vocal lessons, or were you doing any training or education wise when it came to your singing?
No, I was basically completely self-taught until very recently. Actually, I took a course on how to teach vocal choir, which is really weird, but unfortunately there's no courses you can take on how to scream or how to do metal vocals. So since I'm a qualified teacher in Ontario, I can get like these extra courses to be able to teach different subjects in high schools. So I figured, why not do a vocal music class? So it was more from the classical perspective of choir, which is okay. But I learned a lot, and I learned that a lot of the foundations of singing a lot of the foundations are actually the same for screaming. So that was kind of affirming. I think the training was more affirming, if anything, because it was like, oh, I already naturally do this, or I've kind of learned this via YouTube. So it was more affirming, if anything.
So it's dope that you have like is it a license to teach? I guess that's technically what it is.
Yeah, so it's for like actual school teaching, not like I don't think there's an actual license to be like a vocal teacher. I think you can go to university for like, music, but yeah, so I have a license to teach in schools in Ontario, which is kind of cool. And I really love it. I love doing it and integrating it into music, and I've over time tried to find ways to do that. And I think the vocal qualification really like gelled those two worlds for me, which has been really cool.
As far as like teaching students go, do you prefer to do it with like a class or like one-on-one? Like, do you have like a preferred teaching style?
No, I think it just depends on the specific group, and obviously the specific student. Like, I think one-on-one lessons are obviously more personal and more tailored to the learning style and what they need. But sometimes teaching in a group can kind of be a buffer in case like the student is maybe shy or a little bit nervous. So I guess both have like pros and cons.
When it comes to your songwriting style, like where do you take influence from? What are some vocal like or lyricists that you take inspiration from?
Ooh. As far as lyrics go, I don't know if I take inspiration from any like other lyricist like from music. I think I draw more of my inspiration from like literature, if anything. I spent entirely too much time writing Redeemer. So it was like a very immersive process. So I would read things like the Divine Comedy and kind of just like use this like very this like literary imagery that I would draw from for that specific record. And then for Crazy 88, we would just like draw it off movies. So I guess my writing hasn't really been inspired by like a musician, but more like pop culture, if anything.
No, I think that's awesome. You know, I think it's super fascinating. Like different vocalists take inspiration from different things, you know, like whether it's movies or TV shows or whatever. I mean, like Ice Nine Kills is super big on, you know, doing horror movies, and like that's kind of their theme. So I think it's cool that you're integrating something you love with and something that's so, you know, popular, like pop culture, into your music. I think it's fascinating. So when did you start YouTube? When did that channel start? And what was your intent behind it? Why did you want to make a YouTube channel in the first place?
Oh gosh, I think I started my YouTube in 2009, I want to say. I might be wrong, but I think I didn't make my first video until much later. I want to say I made my first video in like 2012 or something, 2011. I'm going to check right now. But basically I started the YouTube channel just to make sure I could sing properly and to just to kind of improve myself and just to learn how to record myself, because I think it's definitely a valuable skill to have. So I had recently joined Red Handed Denial, and I uploaded my first video in 2011 in April. So that was like,
wow.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I mean, same.
So I think I had been in Red Handed for like 2 years, but like very not seriously. Like we were babies at that time. So I basically used YouTube as a tool to learn how to sing and scream and record myself. So I did that video, and then I kind of forgot about it for a few months, and then I came back and it had 20,000 views, and I was like,
damn.
What? I was like, what? And the song was Delinquents by Woe Is Me, because like at that time I was really loving like the R&B style that Tyler Carter brought to metalcore, and of course who doesn't like that? So I was like, damn, you know what? I really want to practice like my, soulful style like Tyler Carter. So yeah, I came back to the video and it had 20,000 views, and I was like, holy shit, what is going on here? Maybe I'm okay. Maybe I'm okay at singing. So I just kind of kept going from there and used sort of the like the good critiques and just slowly got better and better and better and honed the vocals, and the rest is history, I guess. Like I never really expected it to be what it is right now, but I was just doing it to have fun, I guess.
What was some of the initial feedback you got from fans? I mean, I don't know if you were screaming as well in the video, but
I
if
was,
you were,
yeah.
Okay, so what was some of the feedback you got? I mean, you're a female screamer, like on YouTube, and this is not very normal. It's kind of rare to find female screamers out there. So what was the initial feedback like?
It was mostly positive. I think 2011 was a very different time compared to now. I think there were even less women doing what we do then as opposed to now. So it was more like, wow, a girl doing this? Oh my God. Like, it was more like a shock value, if anything. So I think that had a lot to do with the positivity. But I think most of the critiques were for the screams, obviously. And you always get those really bad ones where it's like, oh, she sounds like she's screaming in her kitchen, like she like the really the really sexist ones. But they were mostly positive, and I think that helped me keep going, because it always sucks to be like really fresh on YouTube and just get destroyed. So I think I was very fortunate to not get roasted too badly. But I think like my screams have come a long way, and back then people were just critiquing on how they were a little bit thin, how they needed some body to them. So if I remember correctly.
I mean, I totally get what you're talking about. Like, we've kind of had a similar story as far as like YouTube music goes.
Yeah.
And so like I get what you're talking about, like getting roasted and like all that kind of stuff. Like, I think I was in a similar position. Like, I was fortunate enough to have that positive support behind what I was doing as well. So I think that really pushed me forward, and I'm sure it was the same for you. Have you ever like, what are you making monthly off of your fucking videos? Like, what is YouTube like as a cover artist? Like, it's something that not a lot of people like to talk about, but I think it's important that people realize that YouTube can either sustain you or it's unsustainable.
Yeah. And I think like, as far as the business side of things, my mantra's always been like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Because I think if you try and focus on one thing, you're kind of not optimizing all your revenue paths. So if you combine like Spotify and Patreon and merch and YouTube, then I think you're looking at something that can sustain you. As far as me right now, like, I don't think just solely from YouTube revenue I could like make, quote unquote, make a living. But because I mean the past 2 months my channel's seen like a significant amount of growth, and I think it's because of the King for a Day video. But for some weird reason I think the YouTube algorithm picked it up. But only now am I seeing like a big jump in the revenue. And that's like 10 years. That's like 2009 to 2019. Like, it took 10 years to actually see real money, I guess. So like last month, like just ad revenue alone, it was like, I think 1,000, which is like unbelievable, considering like before that it was like 300, 400, 200, like it fluctuates obviously, like depending on what videos you just put out, but it was like a significant jump, and seeing growth is always a really nice thing. It's definitely it definitely makes you feel good, and it's just like, okay, maybe I can make a living off this and keep going and find new ways to grow. But I do recommend for anyone who is wanting to pursue the world of YouTube is to just try and find also other ways of making money through it, not just relying on the ad revenue. And I think you might agree with that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've never made that much money off of YouTube, like, ever, and I've been doing it, significantly for a long time, about a decade as well, and it's like,
yeah.
I never expected to make money off of it, so I never relied on it to pay my bills.
Yeah.
Literally, like, my vlog channel, I get like maybe like $25 a month now, and in 2016 was when I was like peaking, and like for some reason the algorithm like kicked me out of the algorithm in 2016, so my ad revenue went from like $150-$200 a month to literally like $23 to $25 a month. So it's like I've never relied on YouTube because I knew that it may never take off the way that, there's no, like, the algorithm doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. It
never will.
And I was just actually talking about that with my really good friend and the dude who mixed the RHD record. His name is Lee Albrecht, and he works with Jonathan Young, who's like you did a cover with him, I think.
Probably one of my biggest covers is with Jonathan. We did a Justin Bieber cover, and this guy is amazing at what he does.
Yeah, so Lee actually is his like main engineer now. So Lee was saying you never know when or why the algorithm will put your video in the recommended. You'll never know why. And there is an element of luck to it, which bothers me almost. Like, it does bother me. And like, I don't think I ever like you said, like, I never relied on YouTube to pay my bills. But like, at the same time, it's like, well, now I can't really make a calculated move to like assure it, like there's always this element of uncertainty, which is so weird.
Yeah, and it's like, what are we supposed to do? Like, we're constantly playing this game of how do you please the algorithm, and it's like God. Like, we're trying to please God and figure out what he wants to make him happy.
And it's like, the funny thing is, so the algorithm picked up my King for a Day cover, and that video is not monetizable. Which is like, I die, because like
I'll just go fuck myself.
Yeah, so like, because I'm using like the mixed down original stems, so obviously I cannot monetize it. And I was just like, yo, Eric, like, I found these stems, let's just do this for fun. And lo and behold, the fucking algorithm picks up one of the videos that is not monetizable. So like, there you go. That's like been my experience in a nutshell. It's like, at the same time, you just got to take what you can get. It's just, oh man.
If you're not making videos about babies, you need some luck.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, making videos about babies is hard.
Or like being a beauty guru.
Yeah.
Because like, and no like shade towards beauty gurus, but I just don't understand how and why their videos get millions of views when they're just talking about like, highlighter.
I tried.
Oh man.
I try to watch them every now and then just to be like, what is the deal with these beauty videos? So you try to watch one and you're like, I can't.
But like, I totally watch Jeffree Star once in a while.
Well, okay, Jeffree Star's videos are different though. I watch Jeffree's videos.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what is he gonna say in this video?
You're like, oh
That's
shit.
pretty much what it is. Yeah, exactly. You're like, here we go, let's go. Oh my god. But yeah, I mean, I totally get what you're saying. But talk about that a little bit more about not being able to monetize your videos and like the, I guess, quote unquote, impact that has on your channel. And people don't realize, like, and I've seen you tweet about it before, like, people don't understand why you can't put the King for a Day song on Spotify and iTunes.
Oh my God.
Like, talk a little bit more about that. Like,
So like, it's been so many questions at this point that I am going to make a video about it, because like it's just weird to me how like people don't know why you can't make money off of someone else's recording. Like it should be self-explanatory, but it's not, which is fine. Like, I don't expect everyone to know everything, but if you use any part of an original recording, you no longer are able to make money off it because you don't own the recording. So yes, you did the vocals, but the rest of the instrumental is not yours. So in order to make revenue off of a cover, you have to re-record the entire thing. And obviously, for us vocalists, we are not exactly instrumentalists or engineers, so it's very difficult to find a remade instrumental that someone gives you permission to use, or someone who will remake it for you. So it is difficult in that sense to find an actual recording that you can make money off of, because you have to redo it. And it is quite a simple concept, but I don't think a lot of people know that. So that's why I can't put something like my King for a Day cover on Spotify, because I don't own it. I don't own that recording. I just own my voice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that it takes more time as a vocalist to get somebody to do the instrumentals and like even find that person,
Yeah.
So like you have, that comes with a lot of luck too. Like, I have Ryan and Ryan as well, Ryan Cunningham. Like,
Yep.
He can bust out an instrumental of a song in like a day, and it blows my mind, this guy. And all he wants to do is write music, and it's like he has such a passion for it. So it's like nice to have somebody like that.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find people like that.
Yeah, and it's hard to find people that can do it well, because I think another element that is really important is not only that you're putting out content, but the quality of the content. And unfortunately, I've made the mistake of like setting my bar really high. Like, and anything that is sort of lower than that, any like content that I put out that is lower quality than the last thing I put out, it's kind of like, well, shit, like now you're just downgrading. Do you ever struggle with that? You're just like, shit, I gotta put out the same quality content that I did like last time. So you just stress about it. So I've kind of fucked myself in that way because now it's like you can't go back. So now it's finding like that extra 5% of talent, of people for your team that can bring that extra quality, and that's extra hard to find these people. So it's another obstacle to kind of overcome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about, let's switch gears a little bit, talk about touring with bands, talk about, I know a lot of people are like, when's Crazy 88 gonna tour? Talk about the logistics behind that, behind getting a Crazy 88 tour together in the first place. Talk about Red Handed Denial tours and whatever you want, we'll go into it.
Yeah, so, oh gosh, so Red Handed's a little weird because, you know, we are from Canada, and I think it's extremely difficult. They make it extremely difficult for a Canadian band to tour in the US. And obviously, America is where you want to be for our genre. So, you know, we got to get visas, we got to pay for the visas, we got to get these like memberships with like the American Federation of Musicians. Like oh my gosh, it's a big headache. So like we haven't even like played yet, and you already have all this housekeeping that you have to do. So
and you're in debt before you even get on the road.
You're like significant, and you got to pay it in US dollars, and we know, you know, the Canadian exchange isn't great, so it doesn't work in our favor. So already before we even leave, we are like in the red. So, and then you got to cross the border, which is a whole other issue. Like, so we just came back from a run with our friends in Auras who are also Canadian, which was cool. So we did like a 3-week run. We went down to like Texas and cut across towards the east and came up the East Coast. What was I saying? So when we crossed the border, they had like dogs in our car. They had us like, you know, take out the merch bins. They had us like, you know, all the luggage came out. So it was like a process. And I think it's just a little bit more of a headache for a Canadian band to come to America, whereas vice versa, Americans don't need anything to come to play in Canada. So that's very weird. I don't like, have you ever come to Canada to like perform or do like music work?
No, I've never come as like a working person. I've never had to deal with the like work permit visa thing. So I have no idea. I've only been there once, and it was as a tourist, as like visiting. Yeah,
just like regularly. So you know, and then you have to. Wow, I'm being very negative. It was awesome, by the way. It was super awesome.
But it's true. Like, this is like the facts. Like, it's hard.
It's very hard. And I think you have to really know what to expect before you go on tour, especially if you're not from the United States. And, you know, touring is definitely fun. It's amazing. You meet so many new people. I honestly, you know, some of my best memories are on tour, but you still have to understand, like, there are logistics behind touring and a significant amount of organization. Like, you're going to places that are so far away from where you live, and, you know, there's always an element of like uncertainty, like what are we getting ourselves into at this next venue? Like, every day is like a different day, and it's definitely an adventure, but at the same time, you know, it can be very anxiety inducing. You know, you never know what to expect when you're in like a place that, you know, you're very far away from home. So, it was amazing though. Like, it was the longest tour that RHD's ever done, which is weird. Like, we've been a band for like, you know, like 9-10 years, but we weirdly enough have not done a lot of touring in general, at least in the United States. Like, that was our 3rd tour ever in the United States, so it was long overdue. But also, you know, when you're doing 3 weeks in a foreign country and you've never done that before, it can be scary at times, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially, I mean, not to pull the girl card, but especially as a girl on tour, like, it can be terrifying at times.
Oh, I had a really, like, and on the first day, I'll tell you, okay, I'm going to tell the story. So we had our first show in Lansing, Michigan. And literally on our way there, our booking agent informed us that the show was canceled. So like, that's, great. First show, really great way to set the tone. And I was like, are you kidding me? So, we're driving.
That's tour though. Like
it is.
You start tour, something's wrong.
Yep. And like that was in 10 years, the first show Red Handed Denial has ever canceled. So I think that's a pretty good track record. But it still sucks, first day. So we're driving, we bypassed Lansing completely and we just drove to Grand Rapids just to stay with our friend. So it was like, I think 1 a.m. and we pull up at a Checkers and we're like, we've never tried Checkers before. So, we're going to eat it. So we're at, and Checkers is like a drive through. So we're at like the little window and this dude just walks up to me and he was like, give me money. And I was like, literally was just like, give me money. And I was like, sorry, dude, like I don't have any, like, I'm sorry. So he just stood there for literally half an hour while we ordered. And then he started getting progressively more belligerent at me. And eventually it got to like, he started blowing kisses at me and catcalling me. And oh my God, it got so bad. And then he's like, like, where do you live? And we're just like, we're Canadian. Like, we don't want any trouble. And then he's like, he said something like, you have a big Canadian pussy. And then
wow.
It was like, it got there. Like,
that's disgusting.
It was really bad. And the guys were just like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing, dude? And it got to a point where like these other two people were eating at a different table outside. I think they were like paramedics. And they were like, you need to leave. How dare you treat this lady like this? Like, get the fuck out of here. We're going to call the cops on you. So he left because I think he was drunk or I don't know. But that was like first day of tour. Your show gets canceled. I get like verbally harassed by
assaulted.
So I think like being a woman on tour just has that extra like X factor. Like you never know what the hell is going to happen. And that was a perfect example of that. So I was just like, we're not going to Checkers anymore.
So talk about Crazy 88 and the logistics for getting you guys on a tour.
Oh my gosh. So literally every show, people are like, so Lauren, when is Crazy 88 gonna play a show? And I always say I don't know, because I literally don't know, because I'm from Toronto, Patty's from the UK, and then Jared's from Tennessee. So we're from 3 different countries. Patty tours so much with As It Is, and I'm active with Red Handed Denial. And then Jared's actually never played a show in his life, which I don't think people know that, but he's like not a live musician. He's just like a talented genius recording artist. So the logistics to get us together alone is like a task to like work out like the logistics to get us in the same area and then to work around our schedules. So that alone is hard. Plus we would need, I don't even know what paperwork we would need like to actually play a show. Like I would probably need a different work visa since I'm from Canada. So yeah, it would be a monumentous task to actually get Crazy 88's play show. But I think it will happen. I just don't know when. Like we almost played Mountain View Warped Tour. Almost. And it came, dude, our first show at Mountain View Warped Tour.
Oh my God. I would have been there. Like I was there, so I would have been there.
I know. Like we were so close but it came down to like the fact that Warped Tour has become like a weekend festival. Obviously you have to pay your artists way more. So it came down to budget. Kevin was just like, we can't accommodate it. So I was like crying because I was like, God damn it. That would have been so fun. But yeah, we'll play a show. I just don't know when.
So how has YouTube and music, how have they how have they helped form your career as a live vocalist?
How has YouTube helped me as a live vocalist?
Well, how's it helped as far as like promoting your bands and like getting your band's music out there as well?
Oh, it's been like absolutely amazing. Like I think at least the structure of how to promote a band has shifted over the past, like, you know, 5 to 7 years. Like before, you know, bands would have to pay like PR agencies to like, you know, give their stuff to magazines and all that and blogs and all that. But now I think is the time of the independent artist, and we can do exactly what a PR agency can do. I don't know if you agree with that, but like we can do all that now. We can have that reach and even more, I would think. Like obviously the internet is saturated with like everything and more, but now we can have control over what we're putting out and how we promote a record or a release. So with YouTube, it's been amazing because I've been able to grow like a fan base and a community. So now I can just share anything that I do and they can either love it or hate it, but at least it will be on their radar, even though I brought them in through maybe a cover, but they'll be able to know like, oh, she actually puts out original music and she has 2 bands. So it's kind of like a little empire, if you will. Like you kind of create this empire and of different projects all in one community. So it's been amazing. I mean, some people are still really confused how I'm in 2 bands, which I don't know why, but but at least like you can let people know, and YouTube's been amazing for that.
Yeah. So let's talk about Patreon a little bit. When did that come into play? What did you want to do with the Patreon? And just talk a little bit about what you offer on there.
Okay, so I was always really hesitant to do Patreon.
Yeah, me too. Yep, me too.
And, you know, like I hate asking for money and it's always like a weird thing. So I had the Patreon account for a while and I tried it out like a few years ago, but I think I kind of overextended myself with the perks. So I kind of shut it down for a bit and I came back to it very recently, like I think in like March of this year or something. So it's been a few months that it's been up. But I kind of restructured sort of the perks and the tiers to make sure that anything that I give to people is something I would already do. So instead of having to do like a lot of extra shit, I just would offer things that are already done. So like I have an option where you can have access to all the vocal stems of my covers for like whatever you want. Like you could remix them, you could practice mixing. I also offer like, I think like the lowest tier, you can just have early access to video and you could see it before everyone else. I also offer vocal lessons through Patreon, and I think that's been the best way to do it. So I would do like 1 a month. So that way, like, I'm not overextending myself, but at the same time, like I'm assuring like the commitment aspect of it, because I found like it was really hard to sort of nail down the schedule for online lessons, at least. So Patreon's been really good for that. I offer just like free merch, little letters. I put like your name in the video in my description as like a thank you. And then like one of the big tiers is like, I'll give you one of my old microphones that I've used. And like a surprising amount of people have actually subscribed to that one. So I was just like, oh shit. Like, and you know, there are people out there who will want to support you in an extra way. And I don't think I realized that until I dropped my Patreon. Because I was always like, oh, that's so weird, like asking for extra money from people. But there are those people who truly want to help. And thankfully, like I've found those people, and they're like, don't be ashamed to want to make this your living. And it's hard, and they realize that it's hard. So I think it's just finding the right people to be on your Patreon and structuring it so that you're not exhausting yourself fulfilling like the perks and whatnot.
Yeah, I think I had a similar problem when I first did my Patreon. I was like, I'm going to offer all these things. And then I was like, wait, I forgot that these things cost money. So I'm really not making any money off of this Patreon. I'm literally just spending their money to give them things.
Exactly. So I was like, I really need to rethink this and make sure that it's feasible for me, and making sure that I'm not just like evening out, because then what's the point?
Exactly. I'm having that problem right now. I just finished this photography book, and like I knew that it was going to be expensive. They're like $60 each to like, that's the price of them. And then you have to pay for shipping as well, which is expensive. And I've sent them out to like Norway and New Zealand and Sweden. And it's literally like $35 to ship a fucking book to Sweden. Like, and I had to email the people and be like, look, if you want this, like you have to pay me more for shipping. I just found out this is going to be $35. And you're right. They were like, yeah, like I'm totally down. What's your PayPal? Like there are people out there that do want to help you and want to help support your content. And it's the cool thing with the internet is that they can be all over the world.
Yeah, I love that. And I've actually been really lucky to meet a few of them on tour. So I think I've met like 4 or 5 of them, and like, which is a lot. Like, and sometimes you don't realize that they're your patron until like after, because maybe they're shy or just trying to respect your space, which I totally appreciate. And you know, I love that, but you're just like, oh my God, why didn't you tell me? Like they would just like approach you as like, you know, just a fan and be like, I love your stuff. Can we take a photo? Okay, bye. And it's like on Patreon, like you can't really see their face. If they didn't like put their face in their display picture, I guess. So like there have been a few times where I've actually met a patron and I didn't know it until like they messaged me on Patreon, and I was just like, oh my God, why didn't you tell me? And I felt so bad. But yeah, I think it's been overall like a really positive experience. And you know, it is an extra like social media platform that you do have to look after, but I'm still learning, and I'm still kind of tweaking things on there, but it's been overall pretty positive.
I've had a similar feeling about it. You know, it's that extra social media you have to look after, and like sometimes you forget about it because like you don't get a push notification on your phone or whatever. Right. So you have to like go to Patreon and like look at the messages and do all that stuff. But I do love the community aspect of it. Like there's this guy on there that is one of my patrons, and he lives in Norway, and I Skype with him every month. That's like one of the perks is I'll do like a Skype lesson with you on whatever music or photography or freelancing, whatever it is. And this guy doesn't like freelance or anything. He's a truck driver. And so every time we Skype, he's parked in some parking lot somewhere, and his view is like these beautiful mountains in Norway, or like a forest, or like something amazing. So it's like getting to like know these people that support your content. It just makes the community stronger, and it makes it more like an empire, like you said. Like, these people will support what you do no matter what.
Yeah, it's actually like really astounding, just the experiences that you have with people all over the world.
So let's talk about times that you've been screwed over, if you ever have been, as far as like doing vocals for somebody else, like guest vocals, or maybe like getting screwed over on tour or something like that.
Oh God, I think I just have too many. I think generally, like, I've been screwed over in many different ways, but oh my gosh, I mean, we've been screwed over on tour where like the promoter like doesn't pay you. Like, that's happened multiple times, and that's like honestly one of the worst things I think that can happen, because like you've performed, you've traveled, you've like put in days and days of work just to not get paid, even after coming to like an agreement in terms. So that's happened multiple times. We've had checks bounce on us. At least from the performing aspect, that's how I've been screwed over. Oh my gosh. As far as YouTube goes, I try to keep a lot of things like in-house. Like, I try and handle most of it just so that I can prevent anything, God forbid, that would happen. But I don't think I've been necessarily screwed over for anything on YouTube, but I've just sometimes been, I mean, I do this like when it's like, let's do this, and then I don't do it for like a month, which I've gotten a lot better at that. Like a couple years ago, like I've probably done that to you, which I'm so sorry. But just like, when you like commit to a project and then you just don't get anything back.
Yeah.
I've done that to people, but I've also had that done to me. So like, I guess that's common. I wouldn't necessarily call that like being screwed over. I guess that would just be like a delay, I guess.
For sure.
And like I'm guilty of that too. But I guess there have been a couple times when, it'd be like, I want to take a vocal lesson from you. And then they just like won't pay you. Like, it's very weird, which is why I do it through Patreon now. But like, it's like, okay, when do you want to do it? Here's my PayPal, here's the rate. And then it's like, they try and get it for free kind of thing. Or like, once they find out that, they have to pay for it, they like ghost you. And I don't know, it's just really awkward that way. And, I've had a couple times where like we set the day, it's like, okay, we're doing it on this day. And I'm like on Skype waiting for the person. And then they just don't show up. And I'm like, well, great. And I know that's really minor. Like, it's not a major thing, but it has happened.
It's still frustrating for sure.
It is. And it's tedious. And that is time that, that I took to prepare, a session for someone, and then they like don't pay you or they don't show up for it, which is, it is frustrating. But yeah, I don't think I've ever, thank goodness, been screwed over to like a monumentous level, which is good. Knock on wood. But yeah, I would say the worst one would be not being paid for a show. That's just like the biggest fuck you. Like, as a promoter, it's like, how do you sleep? How do you go to bed knowing that like you didn't pay this band that you said, this is how much I'm going to pay you, you know? So
they go to bed with their head on a pillowcase full of money. That's how they go to bed.
Oh God.
They love it.
That
They
extra $100. Like,
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
good luck. I'm glad that you have an extra $100. Thank you.
So talk a little bit about endorsements, sponsorships, companies that you've gotten to work with over the years.
Ooh, so I do have like I am very picky with my gear, but I think I've been really fortunate to sort of been able to work with companies and brands that I've been passionate about. So whenever like I've approached like an endorsement deal, I guess, I've always tried to make sure that it's something I already used, because I think if you just try and pursue just every brand ever, like, it's not really honest. It's just trying to get gear. So I guess through my experience, like, I've always made a conscious effort to like really try and seek partnerships with companies that I am passionate about. So with 64 Audio, I've always known that I loved them. I supported the brand even before joining their artist family. So I think it was you / Cole that actually introed me. Am I right? It was which is amazing. And like we were in talks, like me and 64 Audio already before NAMM, but like you and Cole really facilitated that, which I'm like super thankful for, by the way.
Oh, you know, whatever.
Oh, it's whatever.
NAMM. That's what we do. That's what we do at NAMM.
So I just think being kind is really important. Being professional, and just being like a human. I think like when people approach like the idea of an endorsement, it's like, I think they forget that there are actual people behind these brands, and it's just a matter of like talking to people and getting to know them and putting a face to the company. So that's why NAMM was really good for me, because I had never really had a legit endorsement before NAMM. The only one I really had was Lewitt Audio, who I'm still with and I love them, but I had never met them. I had never talked to them. It was still kind of, just an email thing. So when I was able to actually meet like the artist rep and actually meet the freaking CEO of Lewitt, like, that was so cool. And with any endorsement, I just think you have to be able to make that personal connection with the people behind the brand. And NAMM was like the most amazing place for that. So I think who I'm with right now, I'm with Lewitt Audio, 64 Audio, and recently I'm doing a collaboration with Universal Audio. And that's very recent. So that was like a week old as of right now. Yeah, so I just got their Apollo twin unit, and it's been a unit that I've wanted for probably like over a year. And I had tried out like a bunch of their stuff recording at other studios, and I was like, this is the interface that I want. And so it took a long time to like set up the collab, but once it actually happened, I was just like, this is so sick, like one of my favorite brands. So it's just, I think it's also a lot of persistence, like just making sure you're following up with your emails, because like these people are also very busy, and just being professional,
Yeah, I'm currently trying to find sponsors for this podcast, so I'm in that like approach, like build a relationship phase with them. So it's like super frustrating, but because it's such a slow thing, and it's like you want everything now, and so you have to be super patient and professional with it. So you just passed 100,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Yay!
How does that feel?
It doesn't really feel real yet, and it's been like a month, I think, but it was just really weird. I know like YouTube's just a number, like it's all just numbers, but
yeah,
it's like this very weird surreal feeling when you actually get the plaque. Like I just got the plaque like a couple days ago. I have not opened it.
Oh, they already sent it to you?
I have
You
not
haven't opened it yet?
Opened it.
What?
Because I want to make a video, but like since coming back from tour, I've just been so ratchet, and like oh my god, like I've just needed like 2 weeks to just sleep. So it's literally sitting on my table right now, just like in its box, and I'm just like, oh, I want to open it so bad. So like, oh my god. So like, I guess passing like this milestone, it didn't really feel real until I got this in the mail. And I know that's really weird, but it's like you spend all this time watching a screen and these numbers.
Yep.
And it's like, how fucked up is that? Like, it's not real.
I look at it like every day. I'm like, how can I make this? What do I do?
Yeah, like it's so unhealthy. And I think I've like
so unhealthy.
I've done a decent job to not be obsessed with it. And I think as like I don't consider myself a YouTuber. Like I consider myself like just a musician. Like a girl in bands that also has a YouTube channel. That's how I see myself. But I've tried so hard to not be obsessed with these numbers, and it's so hard. But when the plaque came in, it was almost like a tangible like thing that was just like, okay, this is actually real. You've actually done something. It's like when you're in school and your teacher gives you like student of the month kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is real now. So, like when you're in a band, like you make a record and then you get to hold like the actual, whether you're a vinyl person or like you get to hold a product. But like, how can you hold YouTube? Like you can't touch it. You can't like feel like
you can't go there.
Right. Like exactly. Yeah. Like you can't go like experience YouTube at a concert. Like it's not tangible. So I think when I reached 100,000, it was like the plaque that really put it in my perspective. Like, okay, you've done something and you should be proud of it. And it's real. So
here's your trophy.
Yeah. And I think it's really nice that they do that, because it's really easy to just become unhealthily obsessed with like a digital number. So it was just a nice reminder that it's like you've actually like done something real, and that was cool. So
what is something you know now that you wish you knew when you started all of this?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
That's the one.
I think I know this now, and I've known it for a little bit, but I think when I started all this, I think I wish I would have known to just not sweat the small stuff, because there are so many things that we can get upset about with like this like madness that we get ourselves into. But I think like don't let the small stuff affect you, because then you're just going to be upset all the time. So like back when I was like, making videos in like 2012, 2013, and you get that really nasty comment and it's like, why is this hurting me so badly? And it would actually legitimately feel awful. And I think like, I mean, obviously like you learn that over time, like there's a difference between like constructive criticism and just like people being mean. But I think that takes time, and I wish I would have known that back then, and to not let these little petty things affect me.
Plug your social media. Where can people find you, your bands, and yeah.
Yeah, so I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and you can find me at Lauren Babic on Twitter, at Lauren Babic _ on Instagram, and my YouTube channel is youtube.com/Lauren Babic, and you can find Red Handed Denial at RHD Band on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, RHD TV on YouTube, and then Crazy 88 is Crazy 88 Official on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then Baquetto Media is the YouTube channel, which is Jared's media company, which is super awesome. Go check out all those bands as well. And I'm coming out with a solo EP very soon. I believe a new single is coming in the next couple of months with a music video. So that's going to be super fun and different and exciting.
Well, I don't know about you, but I think that podcast was worthy of a 5-star rating if you ask me. So yeah, scroll down for me, give this a rating, and leave some feedback so other people that are looking for podcasts to listen to may find your feedback, read it, and give this podcast a chance. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. Lauren, thank you for coming on this episode of Project Freelance. I had a blast talking to you. If you guys want to follow along with what Lauren is doing in her musical endeavors, I will put all of her links down below in the description or wherever the description is on this episode of Project Freelance. Thank you guys again for listening. If you have not picked up a copy of my photography book, you need to do so because it's super cool and I spent a lot of time working on it, and I really want you to read it because I think you're going to think it's cool and it makes for a really good gift. So I'm going to do a what month is it? It's almost September. That means it's time for Halloween coupon codes, right? Okay, so we're going to do a coupon code for No Tracers for 10% off. It's going to be Spooky 2019. Spooky 2019 for 10% off of No Tracers. Go to justtheletterk.com/No Tracers. Get your copy today. They come signed. They come with a signed print of the abandoned Hawthorne Mall. And I am looking at the print right now. I have a copy of it up on my wall. And you guys, this is a really cool print. So I will sign the print. I will sign the book. And I will send it to you wherever you are. Wherever you are. Shipping is a little expensive. I'm just going to tell you up front. But it's okay because you need this book in your life. And Spooky 2019, not only does that work on the book discount, but you can also use it on my merch store on Teespring. If you guys want to, a link will be down in the description to my merch store on Teespring if you guys want to pick up a shirt over there. It's connected to my YouTube, so it's just easy to sell merch through that right now. So we're using Teespring currently. So if you want a 10% discount over on Teespring for a new shirt, maybe a No Tracers hoodie, you can use Spooky 2019 over there as well. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Project Freelance. I will talk to you next week on the podcast. Subscribe so you get notified whenever I upload. And I've changed the upload time. It was 7 a.m. PST, but I've moved it to 11 a.m. PST. So now you get it in time for your lunch break. Cool. Thank you guys. I'll talk to you next week. Stay strong. Keep enduring. Go out and go create something.